Magnus, you're live.
What? I didn't hear you there. Are we live? No, can't be. It says
Yeah,
scheduled.
Magnus, you're live.
It says scheduled, man. This is awesome. You're saying we're live? That's cool. Hey, okay then. Well, everyone, welcome to the Cloud Show for another episode of this awesome show. And we have, of course, as always, a great guest with us today. And we're going to talk about some database product stuff today. And I hope that's going to be interesting for everyone. This is the last show for the year. Woo-hoo. Single tear running down my cheek. But we will be back in January with new episodes of the Cloud Show. Today, we're going to be joined by Dejan Milicic. He is the head of DevRel at RavenDB, and we're going to talk about databases and cloud-related things. So welcome to the Cloud Show. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Magnus. Thank you for having me.
It's brilliant to have you here. Right now, your video is frozen. That's what happens when you're live. Let's see. It's moving a little bit. Interesting. So how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Very good. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. So first of all, you work for RavenDB, and RavenDB builds a database product, right?
Correct. So basically one more database in the market.
Okay. So what does this thing do?
Well, I like to pitch it this way. If I'm holding a solution, you would like to know what the problem is. So essentially, this is a product that is solving problems of persisting data efficiently, fetching it, and overall making life easier for people who are using it. So that would be first and foremost developers, and then also people who are using products on this database.
Okay, cool. So building a database product is a pretty big undertaking, and this has been going on. You have been around for quite a few years now. I can't remember how many. Can you?
Yeah, so this project was incepted in 2009, and I'm usually joking with the founder that this is product born out of frustration. So it was 2009, and NoSQL was still emerging. Relational databases were still a big deal, or shall we call it the golden standard for building applications. And Oranini, who is mastermind behind this database, was contributor to NHibernate project. And then he started leveraging his knowledge of relational databases. He turned into consultancy, started helping companies who are using relational databases, and finally figured out that basically the same set of anti-patterns is happening over and over again. And as every good developer, he first tried to build some software tools which would automate detection of these anti-patterns. But developers, good developers are always thinking not only during the working hours. It's kind of obsession that walks around with you. And this turned out into the decision to build a database that would prevent all these anti-patterns and problems. So not solve them, but prevent them completely from occurring. Because if you're an expert in the databases, it's quite easy to build fantastic applications, fast, malleable. Software, it should be soft. Mm-hmm. You should be able to change it. But if you're a beginner, if you're deploying on Fridays, if you're in a hurry, then it's not so easy. So the whole idea here is to make a database that would be, in operational sense, boring. So databases are a piece of infrastructure, and what you want your infrastructure to be boring and predictable. No one ever said, I want my electricity grid to be dynamic or exciting. You want it to be predictable and boring. Sometimes I compare this with the Windows. So when was the last time you spotted window on your home? It was either broken, dirty, or malfunctioning. So database, when you think about it, database is, first you have an operating system. On top of that, you have a database, which is actually the closest thing to the operating system you can build. And this should be solid foundations for the applications you're building. And
Right.
if you look at some other databases like Postgre, for example, Postgre, for example, is becoming part of the infrastructure foundation on top of which people are building things.
I see. Okay, makes perfect sense to me. So let's explore that a little bit. You were saying that there were some bad patterns that kept annoying the founder of your company, Oren, and so he wanted to solve that, and he went to solve this using technology. So tell me a little bit about the importance, maybe overlooked. I mean, before any other NoSQL, there was SQL, right? Before NoSQL was born, there was SQL, obviously, and tell me about the importance of choosing the appropriate database storage and management and handling mechanism for your problem space.
So the biggest difference when you look at it, imagine yourself as a developer in the 80s. You either work at the organization or you're consulting, entering company, and everything is predictable. Okay, company has like 80 employees, their growth rate is like 15%, so you can extrapolate a number of the users, and that's it. There's no internet. You can predict number of documents, volume of the data that will be generated. And the nature of this data is, again, highly contained within the business domain of the organization which is using your application. All of that changed with the emergence of the internet. Things, plainly speaking, things are becoming more unpredictable. Or the best thing ever can happen to you, your startup can be showcased on the Hacker News or, I don't know, CNN. This is the greatest thing that could ever happen to you, and this can bring your business down, actually.
Exactly right.
I'm usually joking, you shouldn't be punished for being too successful in the business sense. And that's the whole idea. You want to be able to scale, especially with the emergence of the startups in today's sense of that word. You want hockey stick. You want to scale exponentially, and you don't want to be punished. You don't want to go bankrupt. You don't want to hire SRE team of 5-7 people to maintain all this infrastructure.
So you want to know that you're building using a tool which has that ability to scale, and you're building a solution with an architecture and underlying tools that will have this ability going forward. I've been joking for this is a saying that I use, that the biggest challenge that your application can ever face is success, because it wasn't built for that. It was never built for success. It was built for the mindset and the scope that you had when you started the business. Of course, you thought you would become huge, but really, I mean, you don't know what you are building for the future enough, maybe sometimes.
Yes, and there's nothing more permanent than temporary solution, because you start startup, you build MVP, and it happens to be a success, and you found your product market fit. And what will be the next thing you will do? Of course, you will push it and start building. Mm-hmm. And then if the best thing ever comes to you have VC or an angel investor. Yep. Of course, you won't be paying off technical debt. You cannot spend two months rewriting, because in the end you will have the same thing as when you started. So you must continue developing and developing and developing. And what you need is support of your infrastructure, so to be able to concentrate on what you're actually doing instead of cleaning your windows.
Right. So you have, again, a database product, and you're selling this. And let's talk a little bit about something else I find fascinating, because if you are Google or Amazon or Microsoft, right? You can then run lots of database and compute power in your cloud platform, but you're selling a product that slots into those scenarios as well, right? You can run it off the cloud, but you can also run it in the cloud. So tell me about the differences between those two scenarios. If you're running the database product you have in either of those, or how does it compare between these two cases?
So I would say the biggest difference is that this is not cloud-only database. When you go back and look at the origins of NoSQL, it's not negation. It's not only SQL. So this would be not only cloud database. You can install it on Raspberry Pi. If you have a hobby project, you can go and install it on standard commodity hardware, or you can go to the cloud and install it either yourself, or you can use RavenDB Cloud, which is a database as a service. It all comes down to the extent you want to spend time and effort maintaining your infrastructure, patching operating system, and updating database or not.
Right. So RavenDB Cloud is the place to go to if you want to take a look at that, or cloud.ravendb.net, right?
Correct.
And so who would be your like what requirements? I know there can be many options, of course, but technically, which requirements would fit using the tool or the product of RavenDB Cloud?
Well, whole idea, especially with the RavenDB Cloud, which is database as a service, is throw data, it will ingest it, later on run your queries. Something very interesting we're trying to achieve is database which is reactive. So reactive to the operational behavior of your application, reactive to the environment. So for example, every single database has hundreds of parameters that can be tweaked, but you don't want to do it. You want database which in ideal case contains some encapsulated knowledge and which is able to react. So for example, if you have a very popular, let's say it's a home page, so it receives lots of traffic and it's generating, this specific page is generating a couple of specific queries going to the database. So in case of RavenDB, database will analyze traffic and it will spot, okay, here is the query which is repeating frequently. Mm-hmm. This is good optimization opportunity for me. Let me allocate more CPU and more memory to serve it. And this is happening automatically because this is what you want. Later on, some other page may become, okay, it's Black Friday, something else might become popular, or there was a link shared on Hacker News. Something else will be prioritized based on the statistics of the queries arriving at the database.
Well, that's actually a really, really nifty thing that kind of, it helps you to redirect power to the right place of your database. That's interesting. I like that a lot. So technically, someone who has is building something using RavenDB, they are working to build something that will be adapting to the real needs of your application as it happens. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And not only that, we were speaking about preventing of anti-patterns. So most common anti-pattern when you look at actual real-life application is a lack of indexes. So you're running your queries, you don't have indexes, you're forcing your database engine to work a lot with the disk.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can do in your application is network call. The second worst thing is I/O, especially disks. And when we are speaking about the public cloud vendors, disks are usually weak spot. Right. Very narrow capacity. Usually you have batches of I/O credits. Your application, in this case, database is pending, and you can run into lots of trouble. So what we did, for example, we made database reacting again to your queries, and when you don't have an index, database will create one for you. Again, it's easy to produce great applications when you're an expert, but if in 80s you have dedicated DB application administrator, what we attempted to do is take all this knowledge built inside of the database, and in ideal case, you will forget that you're using database. You will be concentrating on what is your primary job, and that is solving problems for people using your application.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, going back to what we said before, and what we were both talking about, that how it wasn't built for success, or it wasn't really built for changing things. Like when you're done optimizing it, the only thing you know for sure is that something will change in reality. User behavior will change. Something else will be important, and then you should be retuning everything again manually to support that scenario. But this is a challenge, of course, for anyone.
Absolutely. When you look at the life cycle of a typical application, let's say you will be building it for 6 months, it will be in production for 5 years. And if you divide that essentially, now you see what is our task. Our task as software developer and solution architects is not to build things, is to change them over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a maintenance job or operations that's going to handle such things to ensure that things really work optimally for the given workload at any given time. And that's also how you save money and kind of, if you will, live up to the promise of the cloud, right?
Correct.
The cloud has certain qualities that we are going for, and one of them is like pay per use or auto scaling in this case. Like auto tuning is more like, I guess, what we're talking about.
Correct. Whole idea of the cloud is abstraction of the infrastructure.
Absolutely, yes. Nobody cares, honestly, how that works. We just want to run an application and service our business, whatever that may be.
I agree.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant. So around building a product like this, you have to also work on, I see you guys at conferences. You try to be an active member of the community of developers and people around you. How do you do something like that? How do you build an interest? How do you drum up an interest for a product?
Well, actually, it's interesting because here you're speaking with mostly technical people, with developers, with engineers.
Yes.
And there's one book I'm reading these days. It's called "There's No Such Thing as Developer Marketing." So actually, right. Marketing has a bit of bad reputation among engineers, as is the case with the sales. So you must speak truth, you must be honest, and you must give. So there's something called permission marketing. So you have someone's permission to talk to them for 5 or 10 minutes. You need to give them something valuable and to be completely honest with them. From that perspective, this is kind of very specific niche marketing effort, or whatever you want to call it, to approach your community to try to impress them. And when you go to the conferences or when you have a talk at the conference, your whole idea is to provoke people to look at your product when they get back home. The majority of the evaluation, the majority of your product engagement happens in solitude. So you're not present there. You must provide lots of offline learning materials and lots of code samples and overall support so that people can work on their own and see if this is really something they would like to use or not. And I sometimes, when I'm presenting this database, sometimes I'm starting with first presenting deficiencies and where this is not for you, and which scenarios this will not work good for you, because someone is deciding to pick up this as an infrastructure, and it's a responsibility. I don't want to put smoke show and just deceive someone. This is kind of engineering fraternal compassion.
Definitely, because when you are talking to a community of developers, whether you're at a conference giving a presentation, or you have a booth somewhere, or you're engaging with a community meetup or something like that, you're talking to a breed of highly technical and skilled individuals, and you can't just give them a smoke show and mirrors. They're going to see through that, and you're not going to be interesting.
and they will smell bad marketing and bad sales right away. They
Absolutely right.
have seen it all.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And also, if somebody's going to show them, I mean, there was a thing in the past called booth babes, right? But it doesn't really work. You can't have someone there who doesn't have the chops. So you have to actually bring out some hard-hitting technical experts if you want to talk to other technical experts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. Fascinating stuff. So I really enjoyed having this conversation with you because we're learning all kinds of things here today about hosting a database product in the cloud, and why you would want to work with, generally speaking, products such as yours that enable you to kind of forget about the hardware, forget about those problems, and focus on the real money-making business problems ahead of you.
Or let's build boring infrastructure so that people can build exciting products on top of it.
Perfect. I think those are some excellent closing words. I want to thank you for being with us at the Cloud Show today, Dejan. I hope you had fun. I did absolutely have a lot of fun. And for all the viewers who are watching this, I'll see you in the next year with new episodes of the Cloud Show.
Thank you.